Welcome to Miss.sheeena's world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
People listen to her because she's pretty. People listen to her because she's pretty, and there is a privilege in that. Additionally, there's also an accountability with that, of which she will not ever have. And Cheyenne Bryant, you can come to the front, because I am a current graduate student getting my second master's degree in marriage and family therapist to ultimately become a licensed clinical therapist. For you to have the platform that you have, and for you to spew the harm that you are, all in the name of trying to communicate that you are a therapist, of which you are not. It befuddles me that you get on them people podcasts, and it's just also so interesting that it is always a man's podcast. It's always a man's podcast, but let's put that in the parking lot. You get on the people podcast and say, not that I can serve more, not that I can reach more, not that I can do more, that I can make more money, not being licensed. But dare I say, you were not licensed at all. They just listen to her and assume she's got to be right. There's a D and an R and a period in front of her name, allegedly. I've never called her a doctor. I can't find her thesis. If there's no published journals or articles in ProQuest, I can't find a thing that was authored by a Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. And I have all the access, because what? I'm in school and I have to read the things. I have to read the things. I have to read the books. I have to read the articles so that I can serve my community in a way that is ethical and just. And Dr. Raquel Martin, came on here, and all she communicated to the people was, hey, it's not about just this. Being a licensed clinician of therapy is a very nuanced situation that involves insurance. It involves whether or not you're going to private practice, sliding scale. There's a lot of things that live on the underlings of practicing in a way that is ethical to your clientele. To sit on them people podcasts, it pisses me off. Because now you have people like, I don't need my therapist to have a license. You do. You do. Why? The next clip that I see that was against my will on Threads is her explaining the most emotional experience that she had as a therapist was an 18-year-old child explains that her mother would pimp her out or prostitute her. And in this first session, after the session has ended and after this child communicates to her all of this trauma, she says, she stands up and says to the child, "May I have a hug?" If you are not a licensed clinician, a licensed therapist, you will not know. And just trust us when we say that was the wrong thing to do and how harmful that could have been to that child. If this story is even true, I got half a mind to not even think it was true. And what else pissed me off in that little clip that I seen, in between her wiping her tears that weren't falling, was her saying, "It's in my book." Baby, I know a scammer when I seen one. And that is a scammer. And she has the reach to gain the masses, to fuel her pockets, because but at what cost? At what harm? It is so incredibly harmful to spew that rhetoric to the supposed community that you supposedly love. It is disgusting. You should be ashamed of yourself. You are raggedy. And I'm not a therapist yet, so you can't take my license, honey. Okay, I ain't got one to get snatched. But I'm gonna let you know right now, that's the only reason the people is listening to you, because you're cute. And I hate that for us as a community. I truly do. That is very annoying.
No longer practice under a license. And why
Right now, I'm
wouldn't
in
we?
private practice. I'm saying, and
Yeah.
that's what people don't understand, right? So just to educate some folks a little bit.
Hello, my name is Dr. Raquel Martin. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, professor scientist, and podcast host who specializes in Black health and well-being. And I want to break down a clip from the Joe Budden podcast featuring someone who presents herself as Dr. Cheyenne Bryant. But before we dive in, I want to make something incredibly clear. Having a doctorate does not mean someone is a licensed mental health professional. You can have a doctorate in literature and be unlicensed, and you are still a doctor. You can have a doctorate in education and hold an LPC, being a licensed professional counselor, and you are a licensed mental health professional, and you are still a doctor, but your doctorate is not in psychology. When evaluating anyone's credentials, it's really critical to look at two things: what their doctorate is actually in, and whether they hold a relevant clinical license. In this case, the person you're about to hear from is unlicensed. I'm going to break down why that matters and why this particular message is harmful, especially to the Black community that she claims to be serving and that I actually serve.
A license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
That is incredibly misleading. Yes, you do need a license to bill insurance, but that is not why licensure exists. Licensure protects you. It means I have completed specific education and supervised clinical hours, passed rigorous exams, and I'm accountable to a regulatory board. If I breach confidentiality, if I cross ethical boundaries or harm you, you have somewhere to file a complaint and be sure that I'm held accountable. A license is not paperwork just for billing. It's a consumer protection. When someone drops or loses or no longer has a license, they're not solely avoiding the insurance hassle. They're also removing your recourse if something goes terribly wrong.
Not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science Rules and Regulations and Ethics, and so it just opened up a whole nother floor in industry for me.
And she's also saying this like it's a good thing. I want to state something really important. Ethics codes exist to protect you from exploitation and boundary violation and providers practicing outside of their competence. When someone celebrates being free from ethical oversight, I want you to think of that as a red flag, a flashing one. It's a warning sign because those rules exist because real harm happens when they're not in place. So celebrating that you don't have to be accountable to that should be concerning to you.
As a therapist, two things: you can obviously make what you deserve because therapy is real. We're giving everything we have in there, and we're unpacking shit, and we're helping you process through things. So it's not us sitting there, well, if you're an effective therapist, saying, tell me more. You should be unpacking, and you should be able to take somebody and drive with them to their goal.
And here's another thing. She keeps calling herself a therapist, and in most states, that's actually illegal without a license. You cannot legally use the title therapist or provide psychotherapy without licensure. What she's describing now is coaching, and coaching and therapy are fundamentally different. Coaches help with goals and accountability. Therapists are trained to diagnose and treat mental health conditions, trauma and depression and suicidality and psychosis. If someone with untreated bipolar disorder or PTSD thinks they're getting therapy from a coach, they're going to be seriously harmed. These are actual conditions that go undiagnosed and untreated, especially within the Black community.
My clients, the truth is that in order to bill insurance, I have to diagnose you. And you only get about 6 weeks. In order for me to get 6 more weeks approval, guess what?
This frames diagnosis as something imposed on you solely for insurance purposes, and that's backwards. A diagnosis isn't a billing trick. It's clinically meaningful information that guides treatment. And the 6 weeks claim is also not accurate across the board. Now, I'm not saying that we should not be addressing insurance because we need to rise up when it comes to insurance authorizations, like we very much do. That is a different video. But insurance authorizations vary widely by plan, diagnosis, and medical necessity. Many people receive months of years of covered therapy. And she's also making it sound like licensure forces short-term diagnosis-driven care. And that's just simply not how it works as someone who is actually a licensed mental health professional.
Majority of people who know that in order to bill insurance as a therapist or a physician or a psychologist, psychiatrist, you have to diagnose. So what do they rather do? Pay out of pocket.
That's what I
And
do.
so when I realized that, I thought, well, okay, it may create a gap within our community, our Black community, who can't afford health care or afford mental health services.
I hear the concern and the access problem is real. Her solution, unregulated, unlicensed coaching, isn't the answer. And there are a wealth of licensed Black therapists, he, she, and they, Black-owned practices, sliding scale clinics, community mental health centers doing this work with their licensure intact, keeping their credentials because their clients deserve protection. The solution to healthcare access gaps isn't removing safeguards. It's expanding access to regulated care. It's providing more scholarships for people like us to get the training necessary. It's more support group. It's actually mutual aid, but it's not what she is stating.
I'm in private practice. I make much more money. It allows me to have more leverage and really be hands-on with my clients. I'm not binded by BBS, the Behavior Board Science rules and regulations and ethics.
And I want to be honest about what's really happening here, because the messaging is awful to me. The pitch to potential clients is, I can give you more personalized care. The pitch to herself is, I make significantly more money and I'm not bound by any kind of oversight. And those are two entirely different things. And when your financial incentive is disconnected from professional accountability, that is a conflict of interest. However, she is not bound by anything when it comes to conflicts of interest, because the only thing that she is bound by is the limits of her own ethics and morality. Look, coaching has real value, and y'all know I be hold real coaches down. If you want goal accountability, a coach can help, but coaching is not therapy, and no coach worth their salt will say anything other. If you're dealing with mental health, like anxiety and depression and trauma and these other things, you deserve a licensed mental health professional whose conduct is subject to oversight. And I know it sounds like gatekeeping, but it's truly basic safety. And it's important in communities where access has been denied historically. The answer has never been fewer protections for us as Black people. It has always been more access to regulated, accountable care, because we deserve that. And I also want to address that it took me some time to think about doing this video, because as a Black woman, it's just been really, really tough for us as Black women. And as someone who states that they advocate for the Black community, he, she, and they create programs for the Black community, is the founder of the largest mental health and education community for Black women in the country. I totally understand where we're at when I'm holding my programs and things of that nature. But I do want you to know that I always state that my Black love is also accountability. And being Black does not mean that when I'm dealing with other Black people, I'm pro-Blackness no matter what you do. That's just never going to be the case. So I don't want you to, I don't want to hear anything about like, oh, this is an attack on a Black woman. It's not solely, it was the aspect of supporting Black people was never about supporting just Black people no matter what they do. It's supporting Black people in love and also having accountability. And these messages are wrong, and they have been wrong, and they have consistently been wrong. And and as someone who has the size of a platform that I have, I think it's important for me to share psychoeducation and information, because I understand the significance of it. And I understand the significance of it because I'm actually working in this field. This is a really harmful message. And I do understand that there's this aspect of like things are entertainment, but these things are harming us. And I know they harm us because I'm actually working in the field. I am a doctor who creates content, but I do want to state that when I say the titles in the beginning of my video, I'm actively doing that work. I'm actively conducting research on Black identity development and mental health and well-being of the Black community. I am actively practicing as a licensed clinical psychologist and see patients weekly and have been seeing patients for over a decade. I am actively a professor and working with youth. I am actively a health educator when it comes to training clinicians in cultural humility so that they can serve us better. And I think one of the reasons why a lot of individuals will say it's not that deep or state that it's just entertainment is because, one, you think mental health in psychology is just folk wisdom, and it's not, it's a science. And two, you guys are very insulated from the field that you claim to be discussing because you don't work in that field and you haven't in quite some time. But as someone who walks into the offices and sees the clients and goes to the talks and does the community programs, we are struggling. And in these little entertainment only pieces that are spreading misinformation, you're doing more harm for the Black community than you know. And the reason why you don't know is because you're so insulated from the Black community. You just sit in front of these mics and you make all these money and you do all these Patreons and you wear these crazy hats and you do all that. But I would actually say I don't see these kind of places as pro-Black. I don't. And the only way you would know that is if you did the work that I do. And you're never going to, because one, you're not qualified. And two, it would break you down. It would break you down every single day. I've never heard so many people saying licenses and degrees didn't matter until more Black people started getting licenses and degrees.
Pretty don't mean safe. I need y'all to hear me on this one. So I've been seeing clips of Dr. Chanel Bryant on the Joe Budden podcast, right? And listen, I'm not about to debate licenses and credentials because you guys, I leave that up to the experts, the professionals, and y'all can go find their videos in which they talk about that. I'm going to talk about something else. What I want to talk about is looking at how pretty privilege moves. Because let's get real, when somebody looks good, presents right, smiles good, smells good, people start to relax. They let their guard down. And that's human nature. But when you know you have that effect on people and you choose to present yourself in spaces with vulnerable people, that's something else. We got to start asking questions. See, my spidey sense has been up since day one on her because the first time I ever learned about her was through Basketball Wives. She was a friend of Jackie Christie's. And it's like, well, you're going to give advice to everybody, but Jackie Christie is your messy ass friend? Girl, all credibility lost. Now, fast forward, you're watching how she move. You're watching this stuff. And I need my community to hear this. Everybody that looks like you, smiles at you, talks like you, they not for you. Sometimes those people are banking on you to trust them because of that. And when it's all said and done, you left with empty pockets and an empty soul. So I'm asking y'all, is this pretty privilege or is this exploitation? Let's talk about it.
Just to educate some folks a little bit, a license is really only needed so you can bill insurance.
Hey friends, I didn't come here today to be a hater, to be disrespectful, or any of those things. I'm here today to address this. This is called misinformation. Having a license is not only for billing purposes. A license is saying that you have done the necessary things that you need to do to be able to practice in that state, town, jurisdiction. It is for regulations and it's also for safety, particularly if you're in the field of medicine, patient safety. I'm Dr. King. I am an OBGYN for over 20 years. I'm board certified and I have a license to practice medicine in Maryland and in DC. Both of those two jurisdictions said by a license that I can do the work that I need to do in those particular places. I can't go to Michigan right now and practice medicine because I'm not licensed to do that. That's what that means. And when it comes to our mental health, we cannot play around. We have given this particular person a platform. She's on podcasts. She's making money. Joe Budden is co-signing. She's talking to Cam. So it's all great. But what the problem is that we're feeding the wrong information to our community. And that's why I'm here today. Also, I have a personal story. My youngest child had a mental health evaluation from a fraudulent mental health professional who is currently serving jail time because she was not licensed to practice mental health therapy. So it's a thing. And the fact that this happened under my watch, my child, that's a different story for a different time. So I'm here to just jump on this to tell you it's not okay. You need a license to do the work that you need to do. You shouldn't be driving a car without a license. You shouldn't be flying a plane without a license. And you should not be trying to treat mental health without a license. Again, I'm Dr. King, 20 years, OBGYN.
And I wasn't going to say much about Dr. Bryant and the bullshit that she was talking about not being licensed until I seen this post where she was saying, I don't need a license because I'm the most sought out psychology expert, life coach there is. And it really made me think about the way that people have used the business model of maximizing profit with the least amount of work in every single space, from the nonprofit industrial complex to just mental health work in general. And she's a prime example of people making decisions because they want to maximize their profits with the least amount of work and effort put into it, because you don't want to be licensed because you don't want to have to actually do the necessary work to be good at providing necessary mental health services. You don't want to do the continuing education credits. You don't want to have to deal with licensing boards. You don't want to be held accountable if you fuck up. Because if the conversation was about providing accessible services and things of that nature, your prices just wouldn't be that high. But also, I really do blame capitalism for a lot of this, because you are only saying this because you don't want to have to go through the process that a lot of people have to go through when it comes to making money in this field. And if I can just sell you some chat GPT ass life coaching expert advice, and under the guise of mental health, I can get these multi-million-dollar and thousands of dollars sponsorships for mental health workshops and things of that nature from corporate America, and these schools flying you out, and these podcasts paying your booking engagement fees, because then you're not providing anything that they can't go get off YouTube. And these corporations know that, and they're like, well, we'd rather pay for that than pay for somebody to come in who will actually make these people care about their mental health and wellness, because that might actually make them realize we're actually overworking them just a little bit. And then you're also playing and preying on people's vulnerabilities of the fact that they don't trust licensed clinicians. And you're also creating a dangerous narrative about what it means to be licensed. And that in itself is harmful for people's mental health. And I think that a lot of times these people be using the fact that they just want to make money to cause harm under the guise that they're just doing great work. And, you know, the insurance, because originally wasn't she talking about how it was insurance and that being such a scam and all these things? Like, she wrapped it up in this bow of like she was doing it for the greater good and all of that. Like, you are harmful and you are causing harm, and you don't want to be held accountable for the things that you advise people to do because you don't have a board holding you accountable to those things. And that in itself is dangerous as hell. And I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it.
So as a licensed psychologist and a school psychologist, some of you have DM'd me wanting me to weigh in on this whole Cheyenne Bryant thing. And people like Dr. Raquel Martin have completely broken down why some of her practices and views are problematic, so I don't have to do that. My opinion on Cheyenne Bryant is beautiful gowns. Beautiful gown.
I don't play with that, but she a childish